So you're thinking about selling your house, and if you're like most homeowners, you probably have a relatively good idea what your house is going to sell for. And if you happen to be in the Bay Area of California, then there's probably a pretty darn good chance that your house is going to have gone up quite a bit in value over a relatively short period of time. So then you're probably wondering, because as with any house, if you're going to be making any sort of profit on this house, you're probably wondering if you're going to be able to sell your house capital gains tax free. Let's talk about it. So the standard guideline is you get a $250,000 tax deduction if you're single and a $500,000 tax deduction if you are married. However, because this is the federal government and this is the IRS regulations, they have very specific definitions, timelines, and rules that need to be followed. So the first thing is that your primary residence has to qualify as your primary residence as per the IRS tax code. So basically this means that you have had to live in this home, in this residence, occupying it as your primary residence for at least 2 out of the past 5 years. This doesn't mean that you have had to live in it for 2 consecutive years out of the past 5 years. You could have lived in it for a year, moved out for 3 years, and then moved back in for another year for a total of 2 years out of the past 5 years. The other restriction about this capital gains tax exemption is that you can only claim it once every 2 years. So for example, if you had 2 homes and you lived in each of these 2 homes for 2 years out of the past 5 years, and you went to go sell one and claim it as your primary residence to try to claim either that $250,000 or that $500,000, you could do that, but you wouldn't be able to make that claim that exemption again until 2 years have passed since that other first sale. And then again, you still have to remember and figure out whether or not you lived in that second house that's going to be sold secondarily for 2 out of the past 5 years. So that's still not the whole story. There's actually still some more math to be done, and I'm going to give you an example to illustrate how this can be. So we're going to start off for an example with your house that you bought X number of years ago for $800,000. So when you bought this house for $800,000, let's assume that you've paid $20,000 in closing costs. Those two things together, the purchase price of the home plus the closing costs, equals $820,000, and that counts as your cost basis. This is where you're going to start. So say that over this period of time you've made something like $100,000 in capital improvements to your house. Also, say that you sell your house now for $1.5 million, and so your selling costs, which include, your agent commissions, any sort of attorney fees, transfer taxes, all that list. So let's just say that that comes out to another $100,000. So this means you have your cost basis of $820,000 plus another $100,000 for capital improvement and another $100,000 for selling costs. So that means now your $1.5 million house, you get to actually deduct $1,020,000 from that. So that means that your capital gains on the sale of your house are actually $480,000. And so let's say you have lived in this house for 2 out of the past 5 years. And you're married, you are under $500,000. So it looks like you're not going to have to pay any capital gains taxes on the sale of your $1.5 million house. And I just want to clarify that I say it looks like because I am a realtor. I am no tax professional, and I just want to make sure that it's clear that you should definitely go talk to your tax professional so that you understand exactly what you're getting into when you go to do this. There is also room written into the IRS tax code to convert a primary residence into a rental property and a rental property into a primary residence. So say you want to think about, well, what's better for me financially? Do I want to go ahead and claim my capital gains tax exemption, or do I want to do a 1031 exchange? If this is something that you want to know more about, you should definitely check out my video about this topic, and I will link it up here when it's ready.